So thank you so much. Today I am joined with Alex Porter from Underminer Studios. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about her business, Underminer Studios, and her product, Volumation, which has been spun off to a separate business entity as well. So, Alex, what I want to ask you about is how did you go from interior designer to producer of 3D video content? Am I correct in what it seems like you, let me let you explain.
Yeah, so ultimately, it's all about visualization, right? Interior design. The reason that a lot of folks hire interior designers is they can't quite understand how their space should be laid out, what kind of things complement each other. It's all about that visual aesthetic. And so in lieu of doing visual aesthetic in the real world, I've moved to visual aesthetic in the digital world.
Okay.
So ultimately, we began Underminer Studios 3 years ago. My husband is my CTO, my co-founder, and we really started in the VR space. So we were living in LA at the time, and VR was really in its first boom 3 years ago, right? There were a lot of platforms like Vive and Rift that were coming out, and they were looking for those launch titles. So we actually started by creating the entire backend for something called the VR Radio 360 video platform.
Okay.
So we weren't in charge of content, we really were just in charge of creating a player. Okay. And so this got us started in the emerging tech space.
Okay.
And it goes from there. So we've done a lot of stuff, facial motion capture, technologies. We've done VR experiences that are tools for entertainment, medical, you name it, marketing, education, kind of across the board. And we started developing Volumation as a product about a year and a half ago. And what we wanted to do is start helping create more content. So these platforms, these VR and AR platforms, they're in need of content ultimately. You know, everybody wants to understand how to combine, how to humanize the digital world, if you will, combine, you know, those everyday things. You know, having a video chat with a person, having a realistic interaction inside of a VR environment. And so we're working to create that opportunity by creating a product that can bridge that gap and really use video, actual video feed from an array of cameras and port it directly into a digital human in any format. So it can be for movies, games, AR, VR. It's really kind of never ending.
Okay, so this isn't one of the questions that I told you that that I was going to ask, but what I want to know is how much of your role as a business owner is about educating people to the things that they can do with volumetric video? I mean, obviously, when you're talking to people that are working in the entertainment industry and the gaming industry, I mean, they already kind of get it. But when you talk about the healthcare space or the commercial real estate space being my industry, I think that people would maybe not even have understood, may not have an understanding of how they can use this in their own business. Is that true?
Absolutely. Every day we're trying to figure out more ways to create, first of all, we're creating definitions. Okay. We're actually creating things that don't exist in the marketplace, in the space, and sometimes, you know, at all. In some cases, for instance, the video player, the 360 video player was the very first one to market. It was a launch title for several different VR headsets. There was already some, you know, wording around that. People already understand what video is. They kind of had it was a pretty easy portable thing to say 360 video. Okay, you can view it from any angle. And really, we get to do that. We get to kind of make up things as we go and try to help bring it down to an understandable level so that more people can engage with it, because it is really amazing for many different verticals. We have done a lot of stuff in regard to creating some technical articles, educational experiences. Tim was actually my CTO. He was the keynote speaker at Austin Developer Week a couple months back, and he actually spoke specifically about volumetric video and capture, and how we can, you know, create more of an opportunity to educate people in general. So those are developers, right? But even in areas like you're talking about, where people don't even really understand the tech behind it, a lot of it is creating that understanding with things that they already know, right? So I've done lots of business, you know, things that tell me, okay, well, how do you make it more, noticeable? You say you're the Uber for blah, blah, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't come up with a really great one that I love yet, but I think if people start thinking about it as like that technical jump from one, known quantity to the next, right? And the way that I like to sort of bring it all together is that it's ultimately about communication. All about communication. How can we communicate more effectively with other people, especially on these, computer screens, these TV screens, whether it's an interactive or not interactive experience. If you're in a movie, you're not really interacting with it necessarily, but you're engaged by it.
Right.
If you're on a video call, we're having a conversation, right? But there's another level that we can add to that where we can actually create more immersion and more engagement. And that's really what it's about.
Okay. So yeah. I asked, what is your unique value proposition for Volumation in the format of I do what, for whom, with what result?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been working on this as well, because again, how do you say it and make everyone really understand it with like your elevator pitch? How can you come up with a really succinct elevator pitch that doesn't include a bunch of education?
Right.
Ultimately, though, sort of what we come to is that we're creating an accessibility to technology that's really specifically for bridging that gap and creating digital humans and digital assets for production studios.
Okay.
And it massively drops their costs in both filming, the capture side, the cleanup side, and the final asset integration.
Right. Okay. So I was noticing in one of your videos that this can be used for like stunt work.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, say again.
I noticed in one of your videos that you could use this for stunt work, for like action.
Stunt work. Yes, actually, the one that I think you might be referring to is the facial swap that we created. That was actually, we're using some of the principles from that in this technology, but this is the super powered version. So what you're referring to is markerless motion facial tracking.
Okay.
And so that one, the way that they do facial tracking, mocap, motion capture, is they use dots on the skin. And you've probably seen that if you've seen outtakes from movies where they're filming on green screen. So this version that we created was using markers on the face that we digitally create. So creating that chin line, creating those mouth lines, and understanding. It's akin to what they do with Snapchat. Okay. Right? So in lieu of doing that, what we're actually doing is taking direct video. So this is a huge array of cameras. It could be between 13 cameras and 150 cameras. And taking that, porting it through this process to clean it up and make it ready for integration, and putting out a proprietary, an open file type, so an FBX, a basic file type. Okay. And what that really does is it just drops the bar so that this can go into any workflow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, in your LinkedIn profile, you said that as a small business owner, you do a little bit of everything that you've done. What time management techniques do you use, and how do you find work-life balance?
That's a great question. Time management is always an uphill battle, I think, for anyone, especially in this world of work-life balance. I actually like to consider it work-life blend.
Okay.
Because there's always work to do. There's always family, responsibilities. We actually office from home most of the time. Okay. And so it's even more challenging. Yeah. I think one of the keys for me is Google Calendars. I mean, it's pretty low bar, but really just setting aside, chunks of time where I've got alarms reminding me, here's where you could be focusing, here's where you should be focusing. That's huge. In our sort of production and development cycles, we actually use Jira, which is part of the Atlassian suite. So it's a task management system that can help prioritize and track how you're doing with actually accomplishing things in specific amounts of time, meaning over the span of a sprint. We typically do 2-week sprints. Okay. How much am I accomplishing? How much am I taking on? And what am I actually functionally getting done? I use Evernote. It's on my phone. It's on my computer. It's easily portable. I'm waiting for a really good Evernote Jira plugin. It's not there yet, but one day it will be. And I heavily rely on my husband and my family to really help me balance out sort of all of those needs and those tasks and how we can enable each other to do what we need to do. He's the CTO, he's developing, he's really in it too. And so we both, got a tag team. We do a lot of tag teaming.
Yeah. So he does CTO, and then what is your role in the business? Are you the president or the CEO? What do you do? I know you do a lot, but
I'm the CEO.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the CEO. So I'm the business side of business, helping really drive the vision and create, those processes and those team focused things that we need, bringing the right people into the job and keeping everyone sort of on track and on task for what the long-term goals are. And at this point, really, we're looking at how do we scale, how do we grow, how do we get this technology out there?
Right. So, and that's all, that's a big issue for every big business owner deciding, how big do you want to be and how do you use leverage to grow? Right now, is it just you and Tim then, and then you use contractors to when you need them, or how do you manage your workload?
Primarily, yes. We are the day-to-day folk. We do have one person that's with us as a contractor that's on sort of multiple fronts, and then we also do some freelance contractors that are project specific.
Okay.
Tim does the majority of the development.
Okay.
So that's sort of his arena, and then I do the marketing and the website and the client-facing stuff, and I'm out there, kind of figuring out, what it looks like to go for an investment round, and all of those sort of culminating tasks that help us move to that next step.
Okay, so so I'm really passionate about prospecting and customer acquisition. That's just kind of the part of the business that I enjoy the most. So I always like to ask people, what is your process for acquiring new customers?
Yeah, absolutely. We are still very high touch, right? Because there's so much education involved in all of the things that we do, because we're in emerging technology and everyone needs to understand how it applies to them. We're still very much involved on that day-to-day basis with our clients, explaining these things and mind mapping them out, if you will. And ultimately, we did recently hire an outbound sales team who we love working with. They are based out of LA. It's a company called Sales Hacks, and they're fabulous. They are doing, those cold calling sort of things. We have a list that we curated of production studios that we think were really in line with what we're, moving toward. So that's in process. We've also been leveraging LinkedIn. So part of the process with Sales Hacks was curating some copy and some understanding about what we're doing with all of their team members, and helping us get the message out there through professional channels that we already have. We already both have pretty strong LinkedIn networks, and we definitely, I would say, are on the heavy side with people that are interested in emerging tech and volumetric video and VR and all of that stuff. And so a lot of those folks already kind of see the benefit of this. Sometimes it's still a little bit more explaining about how exactly to get them from, understanding to implementation, but it's been really invaluable.
Okay. So so when you work with like production studios or production companies, I'm assuming that this is still those that are focused on, like, is it only major motion picture or?
It's not.
Okay.
Actually, what we really are aiming toward is to go for the medium tier studios. So we're talking like 500K to 2.5 million a year in revenue, roughly. They are the folks that are usually enabling those very, very large studios. They're the ones that are doing green screen shooting. They're doing motion capture shooting. They're doing face swab and body digital doubles, all of that kind of stuff. They're heavy into, CG, color correction, all of that kind of stuff. And those folks are the ones that can really use this technology as a differentiator from their competition, right? There are lots of production studios and post-production studios. And this is that next step in technology. So that's a huge benefit for them. And of course, it massively reduces their cost. Okay. So they have an opportunity to, create the buzz and the upsell for, hey, this new shiny technology that actually on their back end saves them a massive amount of money.
Okay, awesome. So you're based here in Austin. and you said that Sales Hack is based in LA, and I'm assuming a lot of the production companies that you're going after are based in LA too. So is there a market for your business in Austin, or is it mostly going to be your Atlanta, New York? I heard recently that New Orleans is kind of moving into becoming kind of a player in the production market, and that Texas, because of the incentives that went away, has become less of a player.
That's very true. A lot of that sort of infrastructure is definitely based on incentives, city and state incentives. And Austin did away with a lot of those. I'm hoping they're going to revisit that. But we have other studios here. Robert Rodriguez has a studio based here. Rooster Teeth is based here. We don't have direct relationships with them right now, but I think that in the future, that's a definite possibility. But right now we are focusing, because a lot of those smaller studios are in LA, are in New York. We are focusing in those areas.
Okay. So does technology allow you to work effectively in those markets, even being based in some place like Austin?
Yes. A lot of the technology is actually an automated pipeline. So we have the way that I'll give you a brief explanation of the run through. So the capture side, what we're hoping to do is enable companies that already have cameras. They already have these things, already doing these similar kinds of techniques. And then we can just help them change it just a little bit so that it is actually perfected for volumetric capture, because volumetric capture it's particular, right? Our style of capture also doesn't require a depth sensing camera, which is very common in the industry. That's what most other folks are using, because our tech actually uses heavily machine learning and computer vision. So it does background extraction and edge detection, which actually eliminates the need for a green screen at all, meaning you can shoot a million other places instead of just in a studio. The rigs are mobile. They're on tripods. We literally have rig options from webcams up to professional grade rigs, and we can help outfit people. And we can actually do rigs for under $20,000. If anyone wanted to look at our demos, sketchfab.com/volumation, and you can see the different rig styles. So what we have on there is a 1K rig, a 3K rig, and then a professional rig that is a client rig. And so that just really opens up the opportunities for more people to access this kind of technology.
Okay, awesome. That's really cool. So, and I'm going to ask you to send that to me so that I can actually put it at the bottom of the screen and also in the comments, where people can take a look at that. So I wanted to, there's something you said recently, hold on, that I wanted to skirt back to. Hopefully it comes to me. I was like, I want to talk a little bit about Sales Hack. And so a lot of people are running lean and would like to outsource their sales force. And a couple of the things that you talked about that kind of popped into my head that I would just like you to address a little bit more is that when you're asking somebody to be your voice, you have to prepare them to talk to your potential client the way that you would talk to your client. So can you just talk a little bit about how did you go about selecting the right company to outsource your sales to, and how did you prepare them to be able to effectively sell your product?
Yeah, in order to outsource sales, which is a tricky thing to do, I think in-house sales is tricky too, because there's even more management that I have to take on.
Right.
And that's why outsourcing was our choice. Ultimately, we wanted to go to a team that had the knowledge and the skills already in place to effectively sell, even if they don't know very much about our product just yet, right? They do now. We've been working with them for almost 2 months now. And ultimately, a lot of it was just conversations. We talked at length about every single aspect of our product and how they could help us curate that language around it and bring it down to that very simple level where they could explain it without having to go into the technical details, because the salesperson shouldn't know all the technical details anyway. And ultimately, I gave them all of our peripherals that we've created for marketing. They had access to our website. We've talked about changing up some of that process a little bit to create a landing page that goes directly into a funnel. But for now, really, it's just been many, many conversations. And I think ultimately making sure that the person or persons that you're working with are asking you questions. And like they need to be asking questions. Oh, I don't understand that. Oh, tell me more about that. What does that mean? Can you define that? All of those things are incredibly important, and that is actually why I selected them. I had talked with someone else and a couple of other, I've looked at lots of different websites. I've had a conversation about another prospective sales company, and ultimately they were trying to sell me more of a workshop of how we can sell. That's not really what we need at this point. Or their fees were kind of exorbitant.
Right.
Like, okay, that's like 3 full-time people of what we would typically pay, and it's not really doable for us right now. Right. So finding somebody that's in budget, that has the background, and somebody that asks the questions, so that they can really integrally understand what it is that you do.
So when you hire somebody like this, generally, is it like, well, because I mean, they need time to obviously, you know, you can't say in 30 days, oh, you know what, this isn't working out, or in 60 days, oh, this isn't working out. I mean, it takes time, obviously, any time to kind of fill up the funnel. So is this generally like a 1-year engagement, or how does that work?
They're actually a monthly engagement.
Okay.
And they have a few different plans. We discussed sort of their entire potential offerings. They offered a 1-month no contract with no commission. They offered a 1 month all of it was no contract. A 1 month with commission, and then a 1 month with commission with equity.
Okay.
And so they're interested. Sales Tax specifically is actually they consider themselves an accelerator.
Okay.
And so what they're looking to do is work with small businesses like ours and like many, many other businesses in Austin, and create opportunity for them in many realms. So.
Okay. Wow, that's really cool. I learned something new in every call. And so my goal generally is, you know, my unique value position is that I find warehouse and office space for businesses to call home. So a lot of times sometimes people just don't get it. They're like, I'm not in commercial real estate. And I'm like, you know what? Every business is a real estate business because you conduct business somewhere. Yes. I work out of a home office, even though I put other people in actual office, because it suits my needs, right? And that being the case, but I have to work somewhere, whether it's my car, whether it's my house, whether it's a co-working space, a traditional office space, what have you. And so my goal is to provide value and connections between small businesses, because I believe that it's much easier for me to land new clients by providing value than it is for me to just continuously say, do you need a space? Do you need a space? Do you need a space? You know, that doesn't work very well. So there are options out there for people who really don't have the time to grow their business, and that there are good options out there for outsourced sales force is awesome. That is an awesome takeaway for me. Tim actually sent me a LinkedIn invitation and said, you know, do I know anybody in the production field or whatever? And my first response was, no, I don't know anybody that's doing production whatsoever. Like, I'm not in that space. And then I'm sitting here talking to you, and I'm like, I'm actually in the middle of filming a sizzle for a HGTV TV show.
There you go.
With Star Media out of Toronto. So I don't know why when he asked me, it never touched me. I know that they pretty much do food TV, and I think they might do something History Channel, and they mostly do HGTV. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for a volumetric video there, but that is my only production company contact currently. So
that's great. You gotta, starting somewhere is wonderful. And the thing is, there are so many people using video, right? Video is a main mode of communication. And this just takes it to another level. If people are ready for that. Not everyone's ready for that, which is why we're targeting production companies that are already doing similar things typically, because this is not a huge, adoption for them. This is just a slide.
Right. No, it totally makes sense. I mean, I'm a big believer in the lean startup method, and that means, starting with people who, your ideal first customer is one who's already trying to duct tape together their own solution.
Yes.
And so then we're like, oh, there's somebody who can do this better for me. And then it makes it a much easier sell, because then your pricing isn't based on cost, but it's based on value, right?
Yes.
The value of having a solution that's going to help us to do this better, more efficiently, more cost effective, makes it a much easier sales process and sales cycle, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Okay, great. So we're the same thing. So we talked about who your target customer is and what your services are. So my last question just wants to be, I'm calling it Vision 2020, right? And this is something that I'm doing in my, both my personal and my professional life. And so my goal is, what are your goals for Volumation within the next 24 months?
Yeah, Volumation, I think in the next 24 months is really poised to jump into the market and be a disruptor. And I do clarify that this is disruptor in the actual definition of disruption. So this is not a trendy buzzword. So the contemporary people in this space are Microsoft, are Intel, are ADI. ADI had $64 million in funding.
Right.
All of those people are focusing on that very high-end clientele.
Right.
We are focusing on that middle tier that doesn't have access to this right now. Okay. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to understand how they can get to it. And we are the solution that can really help outfit an entire tier of business that can't get there yet. And so we really are angling toward starting a funding round.
Okay.
In the next year. Okay. Don't have a timeline for that yet, but we're definitely looking into it, doing some preliminary calls and research on that front, and just scaling, growing, adding more clientele to our list. We should have a couple of projects coming out in March that will have volumetric assets in them. Okay. And then I think that will actually help illuminate more for folks how this can be used in their own projects, even if they're not the production companies. Okay. In emerging technology in general, we're seeing a lot of uptick in interest from corporate, from enterprise. And so they need to understand how this fits into their paradigm, and then they can start going to those studios and really demanding this service. Okay. That's where it's going to go.
Okay, so then there can be a two-pronged sales approach, because first we're going exactly to the studios, but if you come and Pepsi is like, we want to do this, and then Pepsi takes you to the studio and says, we want this done, and this is the company that can help you get it done.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, maybe we're going to see some volumetric video in a Super Bowl coming up soon.
Well, you might have, actually.
Really?
So volumetric video, which folks may or may not know, is being used every day in football and soccer games. Okay. So the point where they freeze the play and pan around, that's volumetric video.
Oh, wow.
The company that owns that is Intel.
Okay.
Intel is obviously a big dog in the space. They have lots of processing that they can throw at it, and they are able to turn around those single frames, because it pauses, right? Single frame of the action, and then allow you to see it from different viewpoints within a few minutes, right? They usually play it a couple of minutes after the play. Okay. Ultimately, we're working toward creating a solution that allows you to do over time, in motion, action. So we're not looking at the grand scale of sporting events yet, but perhaps one day.
So not to go past 2020 here, but it seems the way that you're positioning yourself in the market, or what I'm hearing, reading between the lines, is that there is an opportunity to grow and scale through a funding round, and then by you focusing on a different tier of market, maybe get acquired by one of the bigger players?
Possibly. Okay. I think there's definitely an opportunity for acquisition, potentially by a Microsoft or an Intel or someone else that has a lot of skin in the game already. Right. So I think that's definitely possible.
Okay. I know the goal is to focus on what do I have to do today and what do I have to do tomorrow, but at the same time, sometimes it's like to look down there at the end zone.
Absolutely. There's definitely, it's a long play for sure, but. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Alex, Wow. Between today, I'm learning, I had a video earlier about intellectual property and now volumetric. I'm afraid to see what my dreams are going to be like this evening. After I entered all this new stuff into my consciousness. So thank you so much for your time and attention. And I am going to go through my contacts and just shoot a couple people your way. If I see anybody that's a fit, I understand what exactly it is that you do. And I'm going to be doing a little editing between calls today. I will send you out a copy of the video when it's all edited. And it's up to you if you would like to place it on your LinkedIn as well, and I place it on mine. The long form videos generally get about between 300 and 500 views. The shorter ones get a lot more, just because, you know, people are short on time. So I'm working on trying to kind of come up with more of a commercial format.
Yeah.
So that they can more views, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah. I get that. It's all a process. You can't do it all at once.
Yeah, it is all a process. It is. So I'm going to close it out now because I'm going to edit that part in. So I just want to say thank you so much, Alex, for tuning in today and telling us all about volumetric videos. So if anybody out there knows are part of a production company or knows a production company that can use Alex's services, please reach out to her. Her contact information is below on the screen, and also you will find it in the comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.